Alone in a coma for 30 days, my son discovered an amazing truth sitting beside my bed. Janine stared at the stark white walls of the hospital room, feeling the weight of the world pressing down on her fragile shoulders. Each hour dragged like an eternity as she sat vigil beside her son, Ethan, his body motionless under the sheets. The steady beep of machines was a constant reminder of the life that hung in the balance, and every sound was a haunting melody of uncertainty. Guilt twisted in her stomach. Was she doing enough? Could she have protected him from that accident, that cruel twist of fate that had stolen his light? Days morphed into a blur, punctuated only by the moments she spent sharing stories with Ethan, hoping to reignite some flicker of recognition in him. During her breaks from work as a nurse, her mind spiraled into a maze of memories, both cherished and painful. The struggle of raising Ethan alone after losing her husband to the quiet devastation of economic collapse echoed in her heart. A warrior? She felt anything but, just a mother spread too thin, a caregiver on the edge. As she leaned against the wall, her fingers grazed the folds of his blanket, fighting back despair. Did she have the strength to keep battling for their future? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that is happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. As days turned into a month, hope morphed into a cruel taunt. She would whisper stories to Ethan about his grandfather, the unrecognized artist, whose hidden talents could have painted their family's lineage and magnificence. What if Ethan had the same gift? Could he breathe life into the legacy that had suffocated under the weight of prejudices? Janine clutched the chair as her breath became quickened. The thought of uncovering buried truths filled her with dread. What if, in awakening, Ethan brought the darkness along with him? Every night, shadows played on the walls of her mind as she weighed her choices. Was she strong enough to encourage familiarity with their family history? Or would it only reopen old wounds? She feared Ethan might tremble at the sight of a canvas, a legacy he never asked for. Flashbacks flooded her thoughts like storm clouds, scenes of laughter intertwined with harsh realities, hopes overshadowed by worries. There was so much he didn't know, had never known, and that burden rested heavily on her. As she gazed at her son, the anguish in her heart twisted tighter, twisting between love and fear, leaving her gasping for clarity in an uncertain world. The room felt colder. The machinery seemed to mock her inner struggle, ticking away precious time. Janine stood at the precipice of a profound awakening, terrified of where it might lead them, yet craving the revelation Ethan might hold. Would she ultimately find the courage to rewrite their narrative, or would she let the haunting silence of past failures drown them once more? As a deep breath caught in her throat, she knew one thing to be true. The time for truth was fast approaching, and with it, a reckoning that could change everything. Janine had grown accustomed to the routines that filled the sterile hospital room, but today felt like a turning point. Shadows under her eyes deepened as her sleepless nights took their toll. She stared at Ethan's peaceful face, searching for a sign, any indication that he was still with her, buried somewhere beneath the surface of his comatose state. Each beep of the monitor echoed her internal questioning. What lay within her son, trapped in the fabric of his unconsciousness? She had started bringing her sketchbook, curling up in the corner of the room to pour out her thoughts and feelings in strokes of charcoal and ink. It was a way to release the pent-up anxiety that churned continuously in her chest. Today, however, she hesitated, the pages filled with sorrowful sketches of a world lost and a future uncharted. Rather than connect with her son, it felt as though each drawing was a reminder of her failures, a testament to dreams deferred and the painful moments that had brought them here. As she flipped to the next empty page, the urge to create something new fluttered within her. Perhaps she should draw Ethan, capture his essence, even if it was merely an interpretation of the boy she remembered. Her pencil touched the paper, then halted. What if he never woke up? The uncertainty threatened to drown her creativity. Yet at that moment, she realized that the act of creating was not just for Ethan, it was for her, a means of reclaiming lost hope. With a concentrated focus, she began drawing. The act itself became cathartic, erasing moments of despair for fleeting seconds. She started with a smile, the one that could light up any room, shifting to his thoughtful gaze, deep and reflective, always searching for answers. As the image of her son took shape, Janine felt the numbness in her heart cracking, like the thin shell of a forgotten seed pushing towards the sun. The door swung open, and in walked Dr. Simmons, her son's physician, a man whose presence she had come to rely on during these tumultuous times. He carried a quiet certainty that reminded Janine of the strength she knew she had buried within herself. "Janine, I need to talk to you," he said, his voice steady but tinged with an unusual urgency. The draw of his tone brightened her awareness.
"Is it about Ethan?" Panic surged through her. Dr. Simmons took a seat beside her. "There are some developments. We're starting to see signs of neuroactivity. It's subtle but promising." Her heart pounded. "What does that mean? Can he hear me? Can he feel me?" The doctor nodded. "It suggests that he's beginning to process and respond, even if it's on a minimal scale. If it continues, we may need to prepare for other interventions, including encouraging him to reconnect with memories, things that have meaning to him." Janine's breath hitched. The very thought electrified her. Memories, his grandfather's art, family stories, fragments of a life he had not yet lived. But alongside the glimmer of hope, a sense of dread returned. What if the truths she uncovered for him were too heartbreaking? What if reconnecting with his past plunged him into despair rather than awakening? "I understand this is overwhelming," Dr. Simmons continued, breaking her spiral of thoughts. "But if Ethan has strengths, talents we can explore, it might aid in his recovery." Placing her hand over her heart, she steadied herself. This was the moment. Here lay the possibility to turn despair into determination. Was she ready to share the truth of their lineage? The risk of revealing everything seemed daunting, yet her instincts pulsed with a newfound fierceness. As she looked at Dr. Simmons, determination etched on his brow, she realized she had a choice. She could guide Ethan toward a future built upon the solid foundation of who he was meant to be, rather than letting the shadows of despair define him. Before she could respond, she felt a shift in the air. The room grew electric with potential. The time to uncover the hidden realities had arrived. How could she possibly guide Ethan through this complex web of legacy, guilt, and hope without losing herself along the way? In that moment, one thing was abundantly clear. She was on the cusp of a remarkable journey. The question remained, would she have the courage to lead her son through the darkness and into the light? The weight of the doctor's words hung in the air, amplifying the tension pulsing within Janine. She understood that this was about more than simply sharing memories. It was about reaching out to Ethan's very soul, rekindling connections that had unraveled during his time in limbo. The task before her ignited a flicker of hope and dread simultaneously, sending her mind racing. She needed a plan, a way to navigate through the maze of memories without losing herself in the emotions they would provoke. As she stared at the sketch of Ethan, she thought of the essence of their family, the rich tapestry woven from shared laughter, trials, and triumphs. Each memory was a thread. Pulling one could unravel another. What if she chose merely the bright ones? Could those even be enough to awaken him?
With resolve crystallizing within her, Janine decided to spend the next few days drafting a list of pivotal moments from their lives together. The family trips to the beach where Ethan had built castles in the sand, his triumphant moments in soccer games, and the nights spent in the living room watching movies. These details would serve as the bridge to his consciousness. As she tidied her sketchbook, a part of her felt the stir of resistance. What if those moments blended too easily into distant shadows once revealed? Each recalled experience might come with its own baggage. The challenge lay not only in the reviving of memories, but in facilitating their exploration with sensitivity, selecting incidents that could inspire, not overwhelm. Restlessness seeped into her veins, compelling her to leave the room and seek clarity. The hospital corridors were long and lined with echoing footsteps. It felt at once oppressive and liberating. She needed space to think without the gnawing pulse of the machines, a sanctuary to confront her deepest fears. Where did her responsibility lie? Was it solely with Ethan's recovery,
Or did it extend to protecting him from the painful truths of their family struggles? Janine made her way to the hospital garden, a serene setting where butterflies danced around vibrant blooms, juxtaposing the sterile nature of the hospital. She sat on a bench and took a deep breath, inhaling the faint scent of flowers mingled with antiseptic. This place offered a reprieve, just enough to facilitate introspection. If she could draw upon her inner strength, maybe it would translate to Ethan. Each brushstroke in her sketchbooks was a step towards resilience, not just an expression of grief. She could be both a mother and an artist, healing through creativity. She could provide him with the visuals of who he was and who he could become. As she lined her thoughts and ideas like the drawings that filled her sketchbook, a realization sparked within her. She had hidden talents, the ability to narrate their story through art. Each detail mattered, becoming not just a memory but an archetype shaping Ethan's identity if he chose to awaken. Janine's conviction intensified. She stood up with newfound determination, ready to resume her role as his advocate. As she made her way back to the ward, she was infused with a sense of purpose. She wasn't merely waiting anymore. She was becoming an architect of his recovery, building pathways from his past into a coherent future. But when she returned to the room, she was hit by a flash of uncertainty. Would the memory she cherished be a balm or a burden? Placing her hand on the door, she hesitated, acutely aware of the line she was about to cross. This was no longer just about her. This was about Ethan reclaiming his life. As she stepped back inside, the uncharted path ahead loomed larger than ever.
Would she have the strength to guide him through the memories, or would they resurrect specters that might overwhelm them both? The pivotal moment was upon them, and with it, the gravity of possibility hung in the air like a thick fog. And as she settled in beside Ethan once again, a clock ticked quietly in the distance. Time was slipping through her fingers, and so was the opportunity to lead him home. What if her next move could either bring them closer or drive them apart? Janine drew a deep breath, her heart thumping against her ribs like a trapped bird. The weight of the moment settled over her, a palpable force that demanded attention. Ethan lay there, still and unaware, yet within the confines of his room, the stakes swirled around them like charged particles craving connection. This was the moment she had been preparing for, but the uncertainty gnawed at her, compelling her to question her conviction. In the stillness of the room, she recalled the family activities she had cataloged. Each snapshot was more than a mere recollection. It was an intricate thread that deserved to be carefully woven into something profound. She selected a photograph from her sketchbook, the beach trip where Ethan had built his sandcastle, complete with a moat. The image spurred both warmth and sadness. How far they seemed from that innocent joy. Would talking about it inspire him, or would it once again shine a light on the emptiness that now engulfed their lives? Janine took a seat beside his bed, the blanket resting over Ethan's still form offering a sense of comfort, but also a sharp reminder of the fragility of life. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, her voice barely above a murmur. "It's just you and me." The sound of her own voice was a reminder. She needed to guide the conversation carefully, even if he could not respond. She started slowly, recounting the details of their beach adventure. Her voice grew steadier as she painted the scene, the sun dipping beneath the waves, the laughter that echoed against the shore, and the sand that had clung to their skin like sweet memories. Janine fought to remain composed. Her words were not merely a pastiche of events, but a map intended to guide Ethan home. As she spoke of building the fantastical sandcastle, a flicker of emotion flashed across her mind. Was this enough? Engaging him in this familiar territory was one way to connect, but what if the more painful memories lurked just beneath the surface? She paused mid-sentence, the sheer weight of expectation crashing down around them. This risk of probing open wounds hung in the air, tangible and frightening. She was venturing into unknown territory, a territory marked by heartache and recognition. How could she bring him back without tearing down the walls they had carefully constructed over time? Suddenly, she remembered the evenings spent watching movies, where they would huddle on the couch, the entire world melting away into a shared adventure on screen. There was safety in those moments. Janine leaned further forward, desperation pushing her to explore a new avenue. "Ethan," she began, her tone now softer, "do you remember the time we watched that Superman movie together? You were so convinced you could fly." As she spoke of those light-hearted evenings, she hoped to convey both joy and safety, creating an emotional refuge where his mind could safely wander. In every recollection, she searched for the flicker of recognition, a spark that would signal his return. But moments passed in silence, save for the sound of her heartbeat reverberating in her ears. Panic bubbled beneath the surface. What if she was doing it all wrong? What if her efforts didn't reach him? Each detail she meticulously painted felt both like a lifeline and a potential stumbling block. Then, without warning, a change rippled through the air. The silence broke as a faint tremor in Ethan's fingers caught her eye. In that single moment, a whisper of movement, she dared to believe that her efforts might be reaching him after all. But dressed in hope was a cloak of uncertainty. Could she truly navigate this labyrinth of memories without getting lost herself? The ticking clock in the background felt like a countdown to something inevitable, refocusing her energy. She realized she could not afford to let doubt seep back into her resolve. With a quiet determination, she swallowed her fears and squeezed his hand, the warmth palpable. "Ethan," she said firmly, her gaze locked onto his face. "I'm here. Every memory, every moment, we can face it together." Just as she finished, a sudden, overwhelming urge surged within her. Would pushing further into the past unlock something critical, or would they break them entirely? The tension curled in the depths of her chest, and the feeling of an oncoming storm loomed overhead. Janine felt the once silenced parts of herself reawaken, waiting for her next move. As a wave of uncertainty crashed around her, a resolute challenge emerged within. She had the tools, her art, her tenacity, and her heart. But would it be enough to pierce through the fog and lead them both to the light? With a shared memory hanging in the balance, she took a deep breath and prepared to dive deeper, ready to confront whatever truth awaited them. Janine's heart raced as she leaned in closer to Ethan, her pulse synchronizing with the rhythm of her own breaths. The frailty of his still form ignited the motherly instinct within her, channeling her desperation into a determined focus. It was not just a journey through memories, it was a quest to reawaken the essence of who he was. She needed to believe that the flicker in his fingers, however faint, indicated that he was still here, tethered to her through their shared experiences. "Ethan," she breathed once more, summoning every ounce of courage. "Let's go back to that time we went camping in the woods. Remember how we sat by the campfire roasting marshmallows?" As she spoke, she imagined the flames dancing in their eyes, illuminating the joy in those simple moments. The crackle of the fire was a soundtrack to their laughter, and she hoped that by recounting the details, she might coax him from the shadows. As she unraveled the story of their trip, the thrill of setting up the tent, the thrill of finding fireflies dancing in the dark, she noticed Ethan's expression shift. Beneath the tranquil exterior of his face, there was something. Was it a flicker of recognition, or simply the play of imagination within a still body? She pressed on, inviting him deeper into the web of memory. "Do you remember how you thought you could catch the fireflies? You ran around like a little tornado. You were always so certain that you could trap lightning in your hands." A smile crept across her face, held tight with the tension of uncertainty. Would this resonate? Would it break the silence that had stretched like a chasm between them? For the first time, she dared to shift her gaze, allowing herself to drink in the hopes that stirred within her heart. Her pulse quickened. If this worked, if she could ignite even a small spark of recognition, it would reaffirm her own belief in her strength as both an artist and a mother. Janine was aware that she had much to learn about finding her voice in this moment, and letting go of her doubts was not an option. Suddenly, his lips moved, an imperceptible twitch that sent her heart soaring and crashing at once. "I can't," he murmured, his voice barely breaking through the layers of silence. Her breath caught in her throat. It was almost distinguishable, that brief articulation. Janine had to quell the wave of mixed emotions rising within her. She focused instead on the potent opportunity that lay before her. "Ethan," she encouraged, her voice steady but gentle. "You can. Remember the feelings, the joy we shared." The words flowed from her, stronger now, buoyed by a fleeting hope that ignited both of them like a spark meeting kindling. She was realizing how much she had depended on him in their lives, both as his mother and as a partner in life's adventures. But as the room remained ensconced in a heavy quiet,
She felt the pressure of vulnerability tightening around her. Did he truly face an impassable wall, or was he merely testing the periphery of their connection? With courage barely skimming the surface of her heart, she pressed onward. "You don't have to do this alone. I'll be right here, waiting for you, Ethan. Just let me in." The air thickened with tension as the weight of her longing hung heavy. In that moment, she understood the radical transformation taking place within her, the journey from a passive observer of his fate to a determined architect of their shared reality. She had let fear govern her too long, paralyzing her very spirit.
And there it was, that bittersweet epiphany. Confronting the realities of Ethan's absence also meant unearthing pieces of herself she'd buried in fear. Today, she was not just a mother, she was his advocate, pulling at the threads of life with every intention to weave them back together. "Ethan, I believe in you," she whispered, her voice imbued with conviction. "In your dreams, in your laughter, I believe we can find our way back." Just as she finished, she felt a shift in the air, a subtle rousing that was tangible. The silence was no longer just silence. It felt alive, pregnant with potential. The momentum was building. With her breath hitched in anticipation, Janine steadied herself for the next moment. Would he respond? What truth lay within the depths of the silence, waiting to erupt like a seed piercing the soil? Would he finally speak? And if he did, would the words reshape everything she believed about courage and connection? As she braced for the uncertainty, she realized her personal journey was intertwined with his. Both paths needed to be traversed together, stirred by courage and a longing for resurrection. The clock continued its relentless ticking, propelling her forward. Janine was ready to confront whatever revelation awaited, even if it meant unveiling a harder truth than she expected. Would this discovery bring them closer, or force her to reassess everything she held dear? All she knew was that the deep end was calling, and she was ready to dive in. The silence enveloped Janine like a heavy velvet curtain, muffling the world beyond the sterile walls of the hospital room. She held her breath, waiting for Ethan's next movement or whispered thought, the air ripe with tension between them. Her heart thudded in her chest, urging her to fill the void with words, with memories, with anything that would bridge the gap between his silence and her restless hope. Every second stretched into eternity, yet she remained steadfast. The flicker she had sensed in Ethan's fingers felt like a lifeline, a bite of connectivity pulling her towards something greater than herself. Janine, a woman who had oscillated between doubt and determination, was coming to grips with the inner strength that urged her forward. For years, she had assigned herself the role of caretaker, buried in routine that often drowned out her own ambitions. Now, staring at her unmoving son, she discovered an unanticipated drive to reclaim her voice, not just in this moment, but across her life, artistically, professionally, as a woman. She leaned forward, allowing the vulnerability to wash over her like a cleansing tide. "Ethan," she murmured again, her voice trembling slightly. "Think of the moment we walked hand in hand on the beach, your tiny feet leaving prints in the sand." Each word reverberated within her, awakening her latent creativity. She was not just recalling memories, she was crafting a narrative, an art form that hadn't been explored in years. Reflecting on the journey that had led her here, she recognized the power of those memories. They had acted as her foundation, shaping her identity as a mother, an artist, and an individual adrift on the currents of fear. Now she realized she could navigate those waters. She could choose to sail forth rather than drift. "Remember when we found that crab?" she continued, emboldened by the path her thoughts had taken. "You were so curious, so eager to discover. I can almost hear you laughing." The waves of nostalgia warmed her, igniting the artist within. There it was, the spark, the revelation. In that very act of remembering, she was bridging not just the chasm between mother and son, but one within herself. A fleeting wave of self-doubt, like a dark undertow threatened to pull her under. Would he even respond? Did she have the capacity to reawaken not just his spirit, but her own? Janine recognized these ambivalent thoughts as remnants of her past. It was time to transcend them. The room felt charged with unspent potential. As she leaned closer, an unshakable certainty crystallized within her. Whatever it took, she would not let this silence defeat them. She paused, weighing her thoughts carefully, ready to say whatever was necessary to kindle a response. "Ethan, if you can hear me," she declared with newfound clarity, "you're stronger than this. I've watched you conquer mountains in our lives, and I know you have the power to find your way back." Each word was a cathartic release, shedding layers of fear, of complacency, and revealing a resilient spirit forged through love. Just as she steadied herself, the light in Ethan's eyes shifted. She saw it long before she heard it, a subtle glow flickering to life, igniting hope in a heartbeat. "I want to," he croaked, each word a monumental triumph over the silence that had long held them captive. The exhilaration of his whispered resolve struck her, and all at once, a tension she hadn't realized she carried evaporated, replaced by a fierce determination to fight for him and herself. Suddenly, the world outside faded, and the possibilities within their shared moment blossomed. No longer merely actors in life's relentless play, they had become co-authors of their story, intertwining the narrative of his recovery with her artistic resurrection. However, nestled beneath the exhilaration, an unsettling thought lurked. What if he was unable to reclaim something fundamental? What if she too had to navigate darker waters than she had anticipated? The implications of his fragmented reality glimpsed at the complexity of her own silence. As the air crackled with anticipation, Janine steadied her resolve. They had taken the first step back towards each other, into uncharted territory, where every word, every memory, and every moment mattered. The battle against the shadows was far from over, and the weight of uncertainty loomed large. What awaited on this fragile path ahead? With her heart pounding, she took a deep breath, preparing for the journey into the possibilities his voice had ushered forth. Would they emerge stronger together, or would the spirals of connection bring to light uncomfortable truths they had both evaded for too long? The uncertainty circled above like a storm cloud, and Janine knew the real confrontation was only just beginning. The gleam in Ethan's eyes lingered in Janine's mind as a beacon, a prompt urging her to disassemble the layers of fear and doubt that had built up over years of self-neglect. The tentative sound of his voice, a fragile tether connecting them once more, ignited an urgent hunger for self-discovery she hadn't anticipated. It was a reckoning, a moment that seemed both fragile and profound, urging her forward into depths she had long been afraid to confront, her own ambitions. She remained by Ethan's bedside, watching intently, a mix of hope and apprehension surging within her. "You want to," she echoed softly, absorbing the weight of his intentions. But what did that actually mean? Did he want to return to the boy he once was, a boy full of passion and laughter? Did he know that he had the power to redefine his path? And more critically, would she allow herself to seize control over her own narrative, even in the face of such vulnerability? Janine paused. With each passing second, she wrestled with the fear that her own story of silent suffering was now intertwined with his. She was skilled at cloaking her needs, nurturing Ethan's spirit as if doing so suffused the emptiness within her. Yet every time she dismissed her own creative instincts, denied herself the chance to thrive beyond mothering, she felt that same darkness spiral closer, an internal adversary she could no longer afford to ignore. Placing her hand on Ethan's, a new wave of conviction coursed through her. She needed to embrace both his struggle and her own. "If we're going to do this together," she began, her voice steadier now, "we need to find our voices. Yours first, but I cannot shy away from mine either." This was a promise to herself and to him, a gentle declaration that they were breaking free from the past and embracing an unstructured future. She envisioned what it might look like. Once, her art had been a collage of vivid experiences, expression through painting, words, and laughter. But it had been obscured by years of parental duty, folded under the weight of expectations. How could she resurrect that part of herself while facilitating Ethan's awakening? Suddenly, the notion of shared vulnerability blurred into an enticing possibility. She adjusted her posture and locked eyes with him, a soft determination swimming beneath her surface. What if we create something together? "You dictate the story and I'll capture it," she proposed, the mere thought igniting a spark inside her. Ethan blinked, as if considering the proposition.
She felt the silence stretch again, but this one was different, charged, layered with anticipation. With every synaptic connection firing up anew, she was struck by a sense of urgency. Time felt elastic and constrictive all at once, a reality that could twist, reshape, or fasten them together in ways she had not imagined. "Let's document your thoughts, your dreams, and where you want to go," she encouraged, steering clear of expectations, yet floating the possibility like a balloon in the air. "Your perspective still matters, Ethan. Together, we'll discover that there's so much more to life than we've allowed ourselves to envision." Her heart raced as she spoke, wondering if she was teetering on the brink of revelation or folly, yet desperate to explore this forgotten genesis. She had always found solace in creative articulation, but the pathway to rekindling her artistry was tangled in anticipation. But how would Ethan respond? Was he even capable of fully understanding what it meant to embrace artistry and selfhood again? The prospect gnawed at her. In that moment, uncertainty caressed the edges of their words, menacing yet invigorating like the scent of rain before a storm. Janine steeled herself. "Ethan," she whispered, withdrawing into her own thoughts for a fleeting moment, "if you hear me, and if you're willing, we can do this together. The unseen barriers that have held us captive don't have to define us any longer." The tension thickened in the space between them, laden with possibility and doubt, as she grappled with the enormity of her desire for artistic revival and Ethan's probable transformation. What awaited them on this unfamiliar voyage? Would their intertwined stories breathe life into a monumental truth, or would the threads of their journey fray under the immense weight of rediscovery? As the air crackled with their unspoken resolve, Janine felt time holding its breath. The moment teetered delicately on a precipice, hinting at profound transformations. The world outside the hospital walls felt distant, muffled, and yet she recognized that the real struggle was just ahead. What would it take to unlock not only Ethan's recovery, but also the dormant potential flickering within her? Determined, she leaned closer, enveloped in a profound question. Could this be their time to not just survive, but truly thrive? The evening cast long shadows across the hospital room, and with the fading light came a palpable shift in Janine's atmosphere. For the first time in years, she felt a flicker of determination igniting her spirit. Every second ticking by felt like an invitation to rise and challenge the self-imposed limitations she had lived under for too long. Ethan's eyes, still flickering in and out of consciousness, held an unspoken promise. She marveled at the resilience packed into his fragile form.
In those moments of lucidity, he seemed not just to listen, but to muse over her words, as though they were important not only to her, but to him as well. The connection felt electric, intertwining their hopes and exerting pressure on her concealed aspirations. "What do you want to say?" Janine murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, as if the mere act of speaking his thoughts into existence bore weight. He did not respond, but the way he surveyed her, intent and searching, spurred her forward. It was a reminder of the artistic courage that had once burned brightly inside her, before the duties of motherhood dulled her creative edge. "Imagine painting your thoughts, Ethan," she continued, her imagination stretching beyond the confines of the hospital walls. "What colors would echo your dreams? What strokes would express your desires?" As she spoke, her own visions flickered to life. She could almost feel the cool brush against the canvas, allowing it to channel her dormant energy and creativity. This artistic rebirth wasn't just for Ethan. It was a reclamation of her own identity, a way to bridge the gap between who she had become and who she knew she could still be. The concept of their collaborative effort took root within her, a project that could serve as both a therapeutic venture and a window into their truest selves. But self-doubt, like a shadow, slinked into her thoughts. What if she could not spark the same creativity in Ethan as she envisioned? What if he wasn't ready to embrace a new reality after this prolonged absence from life? She exhaled deeply, the weight of her fears momentarily grounding her. But as she turned back toward Ethan,
Their potential partnership began to morph into something larger. Fear no longer dictated her path. Instead, determination reshaped it into a vision laden with color and possibility. "Let's set goals," she suggested, her voice firm this time. "Every morning, I'll come in with a new idea for a piece. We'll discuss what you want to express each day. We'll take your thoughts and create something tangible, a living testament to our journey." Ethan blinked, and she saw it, a glint of recognition. The minute flicker in his eyes was more than just a response. It was a tiny spark of will and interest. It was enough to compel Janine to touch upon their untried aspirations. She leaned in closer. "You're still so full of stories. I want to be part of that. Let's not just float through this. Let's explode with creativity." The words spilled out of her, a fervent declaration of her newly ignited passion. The environment around them began to shift, echoing the changing tone of their interaction. As Janine spoke, the sterile hospital space briefly transformed in her mind's eye. It morphed into a vibrant studio filled with canvases, bursting with colors and echoes of laughter, alive with their narratives. Yet behind the growing excitement loomed the heaviness of reality.
Janine caught a glimpse of her reflection in the glass window, worn yet determined. The time she spent nurturing Ethan had come at an expense, a sacrifice that pushed her artistry deeper into the recesses of her consciousness. The question nagged, could she balance supporting his reawakening while unearthing her own creative potential? More than ever, a choice lay before her. She needed to confront her own inhibitions and redefine what it meant to be both a mother and an artist. As she contemplated the intricate dance of nurturing both her son's journey and her revitalization, the answer seemed to hover just out of reach, just beyond her grasp. Their futures intertwined in this uncertain, evolving landscape, fraught with both hope and tension. What revelations would come if they both dared to share their voices? Janine felt a sudden jolt of resolve. This was their chance. But an unshakable thought crept into her mind. If she pushed forward with this creative endeavor, what darker aspects of her own fears might she have to confront? The weight of the unknown loomed heavy, turning her anticipation into a flood of questions. As she held Ethan's gaze, a profound realization settled in. This journey would demand not just creativity, but vulnerability, exposing the very threads that wove her identity. Would she have the courage to face them head-on? The uncertainty clung to her, more confounding than ever, unexpectedly electrifying their shared path ahead. Where would this intersecting journey lead them both? Just as she began to stitch her dreams into reality and uncover a hidden truth about herself, a deep-seated fear began to surface, one that could unravel everything she had worked to establish. Janine woke to the cold light of morning filtering through the hospital blinds, threading shadows across the sterile room. The routine was beginning to take on a rhythm of its own, a juxtaposition between the flat beeps of the machines and her own quickening pulse. Today she felt it, a tide of anticipation rolling towards her, fueled by the promise of creativity. This day would be different. "All right, Ethan," she breathed in determination, settling beside him with a sketchbook in hand, the pages crisp and untouched. "Let's ignite some colors today." She dipped a finger into the vibrant spectrum of her hopes and fears, setting the stage for the partnership they were about to embark on. His eyelids fluttered, a soft struggle to engage with her presence. The small movements may have seemed insignificant to an outsider, but to Janine they were monumental. They were signals. She began to sketch out the outline of a landscape, bold mountain ranges under a wide open sky. "This is where we start, the vastness of possibilities," she described, her voice trembling with both excitement and vulnerability. But even as inspiration sparked, familiar shadows flickered in her consciousness. Doubt lingered like a specter in the room. What if this was nothing more than a diversion? What if Ethan remained uninterested, perhaps even trapped in his own silence? Each thought gnawed at her resolve, yet they also stirred something deeper, a desire to confront those fears, to brave the unknown. As she sketched, the act transformed into a meditation rather than mere creation. The lines danced across the page, and with every stroke, she considered the essence of her own artistry. How had she allowed motherhood to veil her identity, to constrict her expression? Today, she wouldn't shy away from these reflections. Today, she would challenge that narrative. "Do you remember when we painted our garden together?" she asked, seeking some flicker of recognition from him, hoping to anchor their present connection into a shared past. Those blues and greens splashing everywhere, as chaotic and vibrant as our lives. She continued to draw, her mind a torrent of memories weaving into her words. In that very moment, she embraced her role not just as a mother, but as a creative conduit. With Ethan as her audience, she felt the potency of sharing her experiences, crafting from them art that was meaningful. Could this shared venture bring clarity not only to his world, but to hers as well? Janine's attention was pulled back to the drawing as she added bursts of sunshine breaking through the clouds, notes of yellow and orange intersecting with the cool hues. "See, life has its storms, but look, the light always breaks through," she said, her voice resolute. She felt a mutuality in their exchange, an alliance forged through raw honesty. But as the new day advanced, so did a swirling worry within her. Was she risking more than just her comfort with this creative leap? What if dredging up her past became a double-edged sword, slicing back into her hidden fears about failure and inadequacy? Every brilliant color she added felt marred by questions that sprang from the depths of her subconscious. With each moment, the vision of her aspirations began to erupt, but an alarming thought crept in. Would she have the skills to carry this journey to fruition? As her brushstrokes became more expressive, so did the truth she felt compelled to confront. This wasn't solely about Ethan's revival. It was about her own rebirth alongside him. The layers of creativity collided with the layers of her identity, and for the first time, she recognized that the two were inherently intertwined. A rush of exhilaration settled over her body. Drawing from these ancient breads of talent and experience ignited something she had thought long extinguished. "What if it isn't just painting Ethan?" Janine murmured, the weight of realization dawning on her. "What if our art spurs a transformation within us both?" Yet apprehension clawed at her with ferocity. The pair was standing on a precipice, and the unknown stretched infinitely below them. Could she bear the risk of losing the fragile equilibrium of their relationship in pursuit of her dreams? Just as hope began to bloom, a dark whisper of doubt resurfaced. If she delved too deeply into her own fears, would she end up freezing at the edge of discovery, unable to leap into the vibrant unknown awaiting her? Holding Ethan's gaze, she felt the weight of their connected journeys pressing down on her, intertwining her motherly love with the burgeoning artist within. A vital choice loomed, one that demanded she confront not just the barriers of creativity, but the personal truths she long sought to unearth. The sunlight illuminated the vibrant colors blooming on the paper, urging her to take a step into the untamed territory of her own existence. As Janine gathered her breath, poised before the horizon of her desires, a new question rose above the rest, sharper and more visceral than the others. If she took this plunge into artistry, how would she confront the monumental shadows of her past waiting on the other side? What awaited her journey into vulnerability would shape not only her identity, but potentially their relationship as well, setting the stage for both salvation and reckoning. As the sun streamed through the hospital window, Janine felt its warmth seep into her bones. Today was a day of possibilities, a canvas on which the latent energies of both mother and son would converge in bold strokes of revival. She sat beside Ethan, sketchbook in hand, ready to collaborate on a masterpiece that would reflect their intertwined journey from shadows into light. "Remember the garden, Ethan?" she breathed softly, dipping her brush into a vibrant hue. "It's time we plant our dreams again." She moved her pencil across the page, outlining a flourishing landscape that mirrored not only their roots, but the strength she longed to cultivate within them both. Her heart pulsated with expectation. Every line she drew was an exploration, a pathway reconstructing the complex tapestry of their lives. She had spent years nurturing Ethan, allowing her own aspirations to fade beneath the weight of obligation. But now there was a flicker of hope ignited by his tentative desire to express himself, to reconnect with the world they had nearly lost. As she painted, each bright color flaunted the beauty of resilience that had shaped both their identities through pain and joy alike. "This blue represents our endless sky, all the joy waiting up there for you to claim it," she encouraged.
letting the colors blend and mix, creating a vibrant chaos that mirrored her heart. But beneath the exhilaration lay a darker undercurrent, a gnawing anxiety about the depths they were delving into. What if his past called forth specters of grief and disappointments she had long thought suppressed? What if resurrecting memories meant reliving the pain of losing her husband?
Could she weave the fabric of these colors without unraveling the emotions buried within their strokes? A flicker in Ethan's eyes caught her attention, a promise of engagement she hadn't anticipated. "Ethan, let us reimagine these memories," she urged, daring to push past the threshold of discomfort she had kissed for so long. "If we're both going to take this journey, we must face our fears together." She paused, confronted by the stark realization of her responsibility. This path was not just about Ethan's recovery, it was about her own reclamation and the revival of the dreams that had flickered inside her for years. "I need you to share with me the colors of your heart, even the darkest ones," she asserted, the resolve in her voice weaving into the textures they were creating together. If Ethan was to soar back into his life, he would need to confront their shared legacy, the weight of expectations, and the story he had yet to forge. A pulse of determination coursed through her as she recognized the dichotomy of fear and liberation that birthed creativity. Yet Janine also grappled with her own stormy fears. What if embracing these shadows only served to fracture their bond? What if in seeking truth, she risked losing the fragile connection they were rebuilding? But as she looked into his gaze, she felt the shimmer of a shared resolve, awakening her courage once more. "I believe in you," she whispered softly, a declaration underscored by the intensity pooling in the air around them. "Together, we can make something powerful, a testament not just to the past we've endured, but to the future we're ready to carve out." A breath hung between them, the fragility palpable. Janine knew that they were standing on the edge of the unknown. The sun cast shadows along the floor, and she suddenly understood that their journey wasn't just a creative outlet. It was a catharsis, an ardently necessary exploration of who they were and who they wished to be. With renewed fervor, Janine resumed painting, allowing the colors to swirl and meld, bringing vitality to the canvas, as if breathing life into their dreams. She delineated bright pathways, portraying newfound hope and clarity. Every stroke guided them towards a shared vision, hearts intertwined with a sense of resilience that had blossomed in the wake of despair. And in that moment, a breakthrough unfurled within her, a transformative acknowledgement of her identity not merely as Ethan's caretaker, but as an artist, an individual of insatiable creativity. She was more than a mother, she was a co-creator of their destiny. Then, amidst the swirling colors of the canvas, Ethan moved again. This time it was not just a flicker of movement, but a conscious decision, a subtle tightening of his grip around her hand. It felt as if he was anchoring himself to the moment, grounding her in their shared journey. A wave of recognition swept through Janine as she realized that her fears had fueled her artistry, pushing her to delve deeper into her heart. The act of vulnerability paved the way for healing, not just for Ethan, but for herself as well. Their collaboration revealed their intertwined destinies, a precious bond intensifying with every stroke on the canvas of creation. It became starkly clear Janine's growth was inextricably linked to Ethan's recovery, and as they embraced this creative venture, the story they were writing against a backdrop of the hospital walls would not end in despair, but in brilliant revelations of hope and strength. "Together we'll reveal who you are, who we are, in these colors," she whispered resolutely, her eyes gleaming with the promise of what was to come. Together, they would reclaim their narrative, unlocking doors previously locked by fear and doubt. Together, they would emerge from the darkness into the vibrant world waiting just beyond the horizon. As she stepped back to observe their creation, her heart swelled with pride. Now, with palpable momentum building, they had crossed a threshold, one that celebrated both personal and shared transformation. And as they began to paint each layer of their journey, she felt a tranquil confidence settle deep within her. This was the moment they had waited for. Both as mother and son, they stepped into the light of shared triumph, strong enough to face whatever next awaited them, As they journeyed forth, hand in hand, both had achieved a remarkable victory, not just in their art, but in the depths of their souls, a generative rebirth ready to embrace life anew. Now it is your turn to transform your own journey. Remember, your voice matters. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and keep these empowering narratives alive. Comment your reactions and theories about this conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this empowering transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to engage. Only true fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.